Today let's see about the bacterial keratitis. It has two types of etiology. One is intact epithelium invasion and the other is infection of eroded area. The organisms which can invade intact epithelium are Neisseria meningitidis and gonorrhea, and Corynebacterium diphtheriae, Haemophilus aegyptius and Listeria. Eroded area infection is mostly the eroded area is caused by abrasions, drying or necrosis of the cornea, and this area is being infected. The most common organism infecting will be Staphylococcus, and the most common in contact lens users is Pseudomonas. Characteristic feature of Pseudomonas ulcer is it produces a greenish ulcer, and we also have Neisseria and Enterobacteriaceae producing infection in an eroded area. Moving on to pathogenesis, we have four stages. The first one being infiltration. We have infiltration of polymorphonuclear leukocytes into the corneal epithelium, as we can see. And then the next stage is active ulceration. We have hyperemia and congestion of blood vessels of iris and ciliary body. We can see here there is an active ulcer. And then the next stage is regression. In regression is due to the defense mechanisms of the body, and we can see a line of demarcation and there might be vascularization present. And the last one is cicatrization. We have epithelialization and deposition of fibrous tissue underneath it. So in case a cicatrization occurs in an ulcer involving Bowman's membrane, it is called as nebula. So here we can see epithelium and below it the fibrous tissue is deposited. So that is about pathogenesis and the four stages. Coming to the complications, the major complication is corneal perforation. So let's think this is an ulcer and behind it the iris and ciliary body. So inside we have the aqueous humor in the anterior chamber. In case of perforation, we have loss of aqueous humor which results in a fall in IOP. Let's just say the ulcer did not erode the Descemet's membrane and is still intact. The increasing IOP within will push the Descemet membrane to form what is called as the second complication, that is descemetocele. We can see in a photograph here. This yellowish ring, descemetocele, as we can see it is a projection outside. So the third complication, let's see the third complication. Let's say the Descemet membrane is involved and there is complete perforation, there is loss of aqueous humor, and this will cause an outward suction force being exerted on the iris and ciliary body. The iris projects outside to form what is called as pseudocornea. So iris sucked out and there is a deposition of fibrous tissue layer all over this. This is called pseudocornea, and the fourth one is anterior staphyloma. So this is again closed and this will again lead to increased IOP, thus again bulging out of the entire pseudocornea along with iris tissue. So that is important. There is involvement of iris tissue too. So that is anterior staphyloma. This appears as lobulated over the cornea. And there is black tissue which appears as bunch of grapes. As we can see here, this is one lobule and this is another lobule. There are two lobules. We can clearly see the difference between anterior staphyloma and descemetocele. Moving on to the clinical features, we have only two types, that is without hypopyon and with hypopyon. Without hypopyon, we have to remember about the margins which are overhanging and the floor which is filled with necrotic debris. And with hypopyon, what is hypopyon? Hypopyon is accumulation of pus in the anterior chamber. It is seen most commonly with pneumococcus, and the ulcer is called as ulcer serpens because it starts at the center and spreads in a serpentine fashion around, and this is most commonly seen in old, debilitated and alcoholics. The mechanism of action is very simple. Every time keratitis is involved, we have iritis, and in cases whenever it is severe, it can cause outpouring of leukocytes. All of this can get accumulated at the bottom of the anterior chamber resulting in the formation of hypopyon. The most important point is a hypopyon of a bacterial ulcer is both sterile and mobile. Let's see this in a picture. This is hypopyon and this ulcer is spreading in serpentine fashion as we can see. Moving on to treatment. We use fortified antibiotics, that is cefazolin and tobramycin, 5% cefazolin and 1.3% tobramycin. We also use adjuvants like atropine to relieve pain from ciliary spasm. So this is the medication in case of uncomplicated ulcer. Whereas in case of impending perforation, the perforation is yet to occur and it is most likely to occur, we use bandage, soft contact lens, and we also use acetazolamide to reduce the intraocular pressure to prevent formation of perforation. And then we also can use tissue adhesive glue, which most commonly used is cyanoacrylate. So that is the treatment of bacterial ulcer. Steroids are contraindicated, that is an important point. So this is about the bacterial keratitis.